Welcome to another deep dive, this time into AI audio generation.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. We've been digging into some Google research, and it seems like they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with sound, especially with music and speech.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it all starts with this sort of fundamental technology that most people don't even think about neural audio codecs.
Okay, so right off the bat, neural audio codecs.
Yeah.
What are those, and why are they so important in this whole AI audio world?
Well, think about it like this. If you wanted to teach a computer to understand and speak like a person, you'd need some way to translate those sounds into something the computer can work with, right?
Right.
So these neural audio codecs like Soundstorm and encodec, they're like super efficient translators, turning sound waves into digital code and back again, and they do it with incredible accuracy and detail.
So they're laying the groundwork for all this cool AI stuff we're going to talk about.
Exactly, and it's a huge step forward from those old audio codecs we used to use. You know, the ones that made everything sound robotic and tiny.
Oh yeah, like those old cell phone calls from back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got these super translators, but what are they actually translating? Let's get into some of these Google projects.
One that really stands out is MusicLM, and this is all about generating music from text prompts.
So you could type something like a calming violin melody with a hint of melancholy backed by a driving electronic beat, and the AI would actually compose it.
Exactly. It's pretty mind-blowing.
That is mind-blowing. Can we hear an example?
Absolutely. I've actually got one right here. This was generated from the prompt, a playful jazz piece with a solo trumpet.
Right, let's hear it.
Plays MusicLM audio clip.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It definitely has that jazzy feel to it.
And that's really just the tip of the iceberg with MusicLM. You can get really specific with the genre, mood, instrumentation, all sorts of stuff, and the AI will try to capture those elements in the music it generates.
I can already see musicians using this to try out new styles without needing years of practice.
For sure. And, moving from composing music to understanding human speech, there's another project called Chirp. This is a speech recognition model that understands over 100 languages.
Over 100 languages, that's wild. What makes Chirp so special?
Well, what's really remarkable is how accurate it is for languages that haven't been well represented in AI datasets in the past, those under-resourced languages. And one cool example of how it's being used is by the GDeal project.
Okay, GDL projects, what do they do?
They analyze global news broadcasts, and with Chirp, they can transcribe and translate news from all over the world, even from places where the languages spoken are less common.
So it's like we're suddenly able to listen to the whole world talking.
Exactly. It really opens up a whole new world of information.
It does, and it really highlights the potential of AI.
It really does. And think about education. Being able to instantly translate any educational material into your native language, or even for people with speech disabilities, how Chirp could help them communicate more effectively.
So we're talking about a future where language barriers are basically a thing of the past.
I think so. But, we have to acknowledge that with all this amazing potential, there are some ethical considerations too.
Yeah, we can't just ignore the potential downsides. What kind of ethical challenges are we talking about here?
Well, the ability to generate incredibly realistic speech, even mimicking specific voices, opens up the possibility of misuse.
Like someone creating fake audio of a politician saying things they never actually said.
Exactly. And that's a very real concern. Researchers are trying to develop safeguards like watermarking, which would basically embed invisible markers within the generated audio that can identify it as being AI generated.
Kind of like a way to authenticate the audio so people can't pass off fakes as real.
Exactly. But of course, technology can't solve everything. We need to have some serious conversations about the ethical side of all this and establish some guidelines for how these technologies should be developed and used.
So finding a balance between pushing the limits of what's possible and making sure it's used for good.
Exactly, a very important balance. So far, we've covered neural audio codecs, MusicLM, and Chirp, even touched on some of the ethics involved. But now I'm curious, how do these AI models actually work their magic?
Yeah, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this technology.
Yeah.
How are these systems able to understand and generate such complex audio?
All right, well, it all starts with this process called tokenization.
Tokenization. I've heard that term before, but remind me what it means.
Well, you know how we understand language through individual words?
Yeah.
Well, AI needs to break down audio into these little digestible chunks too, kind of like sound tokens. And those become the building blocks for the AI to work with.
Interesting. So instead of letters forming words, we have these sound tokens. What exactly are they?
You can think of them as representing things like frequencies, pitches, even phonetic sounds. And once the AI breaks the audio down into these tokens, it starts to learn the patterns and relationships between them.
Ah, okay, so it's like teaching the AI the grammar of music or speech, but with sound tokens instead of words.
Exactly. And that brings us to language modeling.
So how does language modeling fit into all of this?
Well, language modeling helps the AI understand how these sound tokens are sequenced and arranged to create meaningful audio.
So that's how it can compose a piece of music that actually sounds like music and not just a bunch of random notes.
Exactly. It's not just copying sounds, it's learning the rules and structure behind them. And then there's hierarchical generation, which takes things to a whole other level.
Okay, now you're going to have to explain that one.
Yeah.
What is hierarchical generation?
Imagine you're building a house. You start with the foundation, then add the walls, the roof, and finally all the details like the paint and fixtures. Hierarchical generation in audio works kind of like that. The AI might start with a basic melody or rhythm, then add layers of harmony, instrumentation, and all the fine-grained details until it's a finished piece.
So it's like composing in layers, starting simple and building up to something complex.
Precisely. And that's what allows these AI systems to create such realistic and expressive sounds. It's not just about replicating sounds, it's about understanding what's behind those sounds, the structure and the meaning.
It's like the difference between someone who can play a few notes on a piano and a virtuoso composer who can create entire symphonies.
Great analogy. And speaking of virtuosos, remember MusicLM? Well, it's already being used by some musicians in really creative ways. There was this one composer struggling with writer's block, and he turned to MusicLM not to compose a whole piece, but to generate short musical snippets based on different prompts.
So he was using it for inspiration, kind of like brainstorming with a musical partner.
Exactly. He said it was like having a conversation with another musician, bouncing ideas back and forth, and eventually those snippets helped him break through his writer's block and create something new.
That's amazing. It
Yeah.
really shows how AI can enhance human creativity, not replace it.
Absolutely. And we're seeing this across many applications of AI audio generation. And it's not just music either. Remember Chirp? Well, it's being used to study endangered languages too.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. How does that work?
Hi.
Well, there are languages out there spoken by very few people, and they're at risk of disappearing. Researchers are using Chirp to record and transcribe these languages, creating valuable archives that could help preserve them.
That's so important. It's like expanding the library of human knowledge and experience.
Exactly. And if we're talking about pushing boundaries, we can't forget about AudioLM.
Okay. AudioLM, fill me in.
This one's all about generating realistic continuations of speech. And it's amazing at preserving things like the speaker's identity, their accent, even the recording conditions.
So you could take a snippet of someone talking and have the AI seamlessly finish their sentence or even generate a whole conversation in their style.
Exactly. Imagine the possibilities for personalized learning. You could have a virtual tutor who speaks in a way that's engaging and easy for you to understand.
Or someone with a speech disability being able to communicate using a voice that truly represents them.
Precisely. It's about empowerment and self-expression. And of course, there are applications in entertainment too, like creating realistic dialogue for video games or animated films much more easily and efficiently.
It sounds like we've only just scratched the surface of what's possible with AI audio generation. But with all this potential, are there any limitations or challenges we should be aware of?
Of course. One of the biggest challenges is making sure these technologies are used responsibly, especially when we're talking about generating synthetic speech that's almost indistinguishable from a real human voice.
Yeah, that's a really important point. We need to be careful about potential misuse.
Right. For example, think about deepfakes, where someone creates fake audio of a public figure saying or doing things they never did. That could have serious consequences, especially with how fast information spreads online these days.
It's a good reminder that with any powerful technology, there's always the potential for both good and bad.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of these technologies and to work together to develop safeguards to mitigate those risks while still allowing us to explore all the incredible potential they offer.
So as we continue exploring the world of AI audio generation, we're not just talking about technology, but also navigating some pretty complex ethical questions that will shape how we interact with and create sound in the future. What else is on the horizon? What other challenges and possibilities do you see?
Well, one area where we're seeing a lot of progress is in developing tools that can generate entire conversations, not just individual voices. That's where Soundstorm comes in. So
Okay.
Soundstorm, what's so special about it?
Yeah, what sets it apart from the other projects we've been talking about?
Well, the key thing with Soundstorm is that it's really fast and can generate high-quality audio in parallel,
Then,
so it can handle these really complex conversations with multiple speakers really smoothly.
okay, so think about how natural a conversation flows, right? People interrupt each other, they talk over each other, they respond in real time. Soundstorm can capture that dynamic.
Exactly. It's not just generating one voice at a time. It's creating multiple voices simultaneously, just like a real conversation.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. What kind of applications can you see for this?
Well, you could use Soundstorm to create interactive audiobooks where the characters actually respond to your questions or comments. Or how about virtual debate partners that can engage in these nuanced discussions on complex topics?
That's really cool. It makes you wonder where all this is heading. What's the ultimate potential of AI audio generation?
You know, one vision for the future is a world where anyone can express their musical ideas no matter their skill level.
Hmm,
Imagine just humming a melody or describing a sound in your head and having AI turn that into a full-fledged piece of music.
that would be incredible.
Yeah.
It would totally change how we create and experience music.
Exactly. It would be like having your own personal composer on demand. And it goes beyond music, too. Think about creating immersive soundscapes for virtual reality or augmented reality, experiences where the audio reacts to your actions and choices.
It would be like stepping into a movie or a video game with the audio as personalized and interactive as the visuals.
Exactly. And we can't forget about accessibility. AI tools that can transcribe and translate speech in real time would allow people who are deaf or hard of hearing to participate fully in conversations.
Now, that would be a game changer. So many people would benefit from that. It's amazing to think how AI could remove barriers and make things more inclusive.
It really is. But you know, with all these advancements, some people are worried about jobs being replaced in creative fields like music or voice acting. What do you think about that?
That's a valid concern for sure.
Yeah.
As AI gets better, there's always the possibility of some tasks being automated.
Hmm.
But personally, I think AI is more likely to enhance human creativity, not replace it altogether.
I agree. It's about collaboration, not replacement. AI becomes another tool we can use to push those creative boundaries. And we have to remember, AI is only as good as the data it's trained on and the people using it. Human creativity and ingenuity, those are the things that will shape the future of art, music, and communication.
Well said. We've covered so much today. The tech behind neural audio codecs, the amazing things you can do with MusicLM, Chirp, AudioLM, and Soundstorm. We even talked about the ethical side of it all and what the future might hold. What are some of the key things our listeners should take away from all of this?
Well, first off, I think it's incredible how quickly things are moving in AI audio generation. What seemed impossible a few years ago is becoming reality.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time to be following all this.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that we need to be having these conversations about the ethical implications. As we've seen, there's potential for both good and bad, and it's on all of us to make sure these tools are being used responsibly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into AI audio generation, we want to leave you with a question. How might these technologies change the sounds we hear in our everyday lives? Will we embrace the possibilities, navigate the challenges, and ultimately use these powerful tools to create a more vibrant, expressive, and inclusive sonic world?
It's going to be a fascinating journey, and I, for one, can't wait to see what happens next.
Same here. Until next time, keep your ears open and happy listening.
It's a really powerful tool for creating realistic and engaging dialogue, and it has the potential to revolutionize how we experience audio.
So we've talked about music speech, even touched on some of the ethical considerations. But with all these advancements in AI audio generation, where do we go from here? What's next?
Well, one area that's really exciting is personalized audio experiences. You know, imagine a world where you can have AI create custom soundtracks for your life.
Like a personalized soundtrack for your workout or your commute, or even just to match your mood.
Exactly. Or think about how this could be used in education. Imagine AI generating audio explanations that are tailored to your specific learning style and pace.
That would be amazing. It's like having a personal tutor whispering in your ear.
Exactly. And speaking of personalized experiences, AI could even help us create virtual acoustic environments that are optimized for our individual hearing preferences.
So if you have some hearing loss, for example,
Yeah.
the AI could adjust the frequencies and levels to make everything sound clearer.
Exactly. It's about making audio more accessible and enjoyable for everyone.
But all of this raises some interesting questions about the role of human creativity in a world where AI can generate such high-quality audio.
Right. If AI can compose music, write scripts, and even create realistic voiceovers, does that mean human artists and musicians will become obsolete?
I don't think so. I think AI is more likely to become a tool that artists and creators use to enhance their work and push the boundaries of what's possible. It's like how photography didn't replace painting. It just gave artists a new way to express themselves. That's a great point. So it's
Yeah.
not about AI versus humans. It's about AI and humans working together.
Exactly. And I think that collaboration has the potential to create some truly amazing things. We've talked a lot about the technical side of AI audio generation, but it's important to remember that this technology has the power to impact our lives in profound ways.
Right. It's not just about making cool sounds. It's about communicate, connection, and even self-expression.
Exactly. And as we move forward, it's important to consider the ethical implications of this technology and to make sure that it's used to benefit society as a whole.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored the technology behind AI audio generation, the incredible applications that are emerging, and even touched on some of the ethical and societal implications. So as we wrap things up, what are some key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is to be aware of just how rapidly this field is evolving. What seemed like science fiction a few years ago is now becoming reality. And with that comes a lot of exciting possibilities, but also some challenges that we need to address.
So it's a time of both great opportunity and great responsibility.
Exactly. And ultimately, I think it's up to all of us to shape how this technology is developed and used to make sure that it benefits humanity as a whole.
That's a great point. And on that note, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI audio generation. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.